All right, so this is a story that I want to cover by John Schwartz from The Intercept. And he was talking about Apple dealing with their tax revenue and the taxes that they owe. So Tim, in a second here, Tim Cook. So it's an age-old story that companies have been doing for a while now, tax inversion, making their profits, or even if they make their profits in the United States, on paper, it looks like their profits are being made overseas, particularly in Ireland. The CEO of Apple has just expressly said that they're not going to pay taxes on the money that's being held digitally in Ireland until they get a tax rate that is that they feel is fair. And the question is, who else in the world could do this besides corporations? Because if you and I waited for a tax rate that was fair, we would be in jail. But that's besides the point. So Tim Cook, during an interview with the Washington Post, said that we said at 40%, at a 40% tax rate, that we're not going to bring that revenue back until there's a fair rate. There's no debate about it. Is that legal to do or not legal to do? It is legal to do. It's the current tax law. It's not a matter of being patriotic or not patriotic. It doesn't go that the more you pay, the more patriotic you are. So Tim Cook believes that there will be a corporate tax reform in 2017. And so until that time, Apple will hold on to its $181 billion outside of the United States. And in hopes that money paid in taxes when money is repatriated will go to building. We'll get there in a second. All right. There is, I believe, close to $2 trillion of revenue that is sitting overseas right now across multiple corporations and industries for this exact same reason. And he's just being candid. It's perfectly legal for them to hold those revenues overseas until such time that they get a tax rate that is preferable to them, until they get a rate that they like. And I believe the last time we had a tax holiday was underneath George W. Bush. George W. Bush presented a tax rate, I think around 10%, something extremely low. And a lot of nations repatriated their revenues and paid taxes at a lower tax rate. Now, the tax rate that he quoted at 40% is nowhere near the effective tax rate that corporations actually pay. Right. And the 40% rate that he's talking about had to be years ago, because I believe the corporate tax rate now is around 35%. The effective tax rate on corporations is somewhere around 27%. And so with a tax holiday of 10%, and I'm going off the top of my head, so if I don't have the exact percentages, charge it to my head. But, they saved a tremendous amount of money waiting on these tax holidays. But Tim Cook is not only waiting on a tax holiday, he's waiting for actual reform where there will be a permanent decrease in the corporate tax rate. The bigger problem here is, and not a problem, but the more revealing thing is that he's clear about it, that paying their taxes is not something they see as patriotic. I want to translate that into saying paying taxes is not something they see as their duty as corporations that not only found their start in America, but got their start in America off of the American middle class. Now, of course, they have access to global middle classes, and so that they really have no allegiance to a particular nation. Because they have no allegiance to a particular nation, they're able to gallivant across the globe seeking the lowest tax rate possible and just leaving their revenues there. So far, it's worked out really great for them because there are nations that are willing to engage into this race to the bottom, where they're effectively going to rob themselves of the tax revenues they could get for infrastructure, the tax revenues they could get for programs, the tax revenue they could get for even for defense. Right? Let's talk their language. Every nation wants to spend money on defense. They're not able to get these tax revenues because they're willing to cut themselves as low as possible to make sure that these corporations come to their nation. And so it's a proverbial race to the bottom. And it really doesn't end, because even though Ireland has the lowest rate right now for Apple, there's going to be another nation who's going to be willing to go even lower. And so we'll see every so many years, there's going to be a mass exodus from one nation to another, wherever the lowest tax rate goes. And eventually a nation has to ask itself, is this something we want to continue to engage in? The answer is, if you have enough lobbyists and you have enough money for those lobbyists to lobby congressmen and senators, then yes, it will continue to be something that they will engage in, but it will continue to gut our coffers to benefit a small group of people who clearly don't believe that their contribution to America through their taxes is something that's a patriotic duty. And the only thing that matters to them is whether it's legal or not. And so obviously there needs to be some tax reform, but not tax reform in the way that they're thinking. We do need to protect ourselves from this race to the bottom. What does that mean? What does that actually look like? I don't know yet. People are, there's some ideas out there, but clearly we cannot continue to be competitive or to compete with nations that can afford to have a 12, 13, 14, 15% corporate tax rate. Especially because a lot of these multinational, transnational corporations found their start in the United States, benefited from a booming middle class in the United States, and now can benefit from a global middle class to the detriment of the United States. And the question is, how long will we participate and how long will we let it go?